Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO, free impartial advice on all your debt. This is KUGAN CASSIUS for IFL TV in association with MTK Global.
Alright.
Alright?
You're good, mate. I'm good.
A little week off?
Well, not really. I mean, we've been in here grafting, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, off
But
the show.
it's been nice. It's been nice. It's been sort of back-to-back weeks in the bubble. And nice to come into the office before another back-to-back week. Gutted I can't be at Jacob's Rosado. Had to do the online press conference the other day, which is quite frustrating, but going to be making my way out to America finally for Canelo against Smith and Triple G. So I haven't been to America since February. And if you had said to me last year, you are not going to be going to America during February and December, I would have said, you're having a bubble, son. So,
Bubble?
Yeah.
So you did that, mate.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because of the
Good,
bubble and that
good,
was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all good. Literally, Jacob's Rosado this week, Billy Joe Saunders next week, AJ the week after, Golovkin the week after, and Canelo the day after. Also, we've got a big show in Italy that week as well. So, mad finish, isn't it? Mad finish.
Pen. Edward, let's talk about Jacobs and Rosado. Well, we know what Rosado is. He's just...
Yeah, it's a
He's
good
never
fight.
involved in a dull fight.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people want to see Danny Jacobs step up and fight for a world championship at 168, which is pending. But I thought this was a good fight. Plenty of beef between them, you know. And I'm not saying that always makes a great fight, but I like it. And I think it's a good fight for Danny coming off the Chavez fight to make a statement, even though Freddie Roach and Gabe Rosado and the team don't think they will. But I do expect Danny Jacobs to win that fight and then move on and try and challenge for a version of the championship at 168.
Could you run through who else is on the card?
Yeah, it's a good card actually. You've got a really good lightweight fight between Emmanuel Tago and Mason Menard. Nikita Ababi's got a big step up. Majidov has got a great fight as well against I think a kid who's 9-0. He's 2-0, and I think he needs to make a statement. I think he's going to be a big player in the heavyweight division. And then a really good fight for Danny Argulusinov against former unified champion Julius Ndongo's big step up for Daniel. I actually think that it's taken Daniel a little bit of time to find his feet in the pro ranks, and I think he's found it. I honestly believe that Yulisinov will win a world championship at 147 pounds, and I think he'll show that on Friday. But after beating Ndongo, and I'm not saying Ndongo is Spence and Garcia and all these guys, but I'm willing after this fight to put Yulisinov in with whoever, because I believe the better the opposition, the better he will perform, and I really think he's finding his feet now as a pro. He's an exceptional talent, Olympic gold medalist, and when I went to see AJ last week, because I went to see AJ and I spoke to him on the phone earlier as well.
No. Yeah.
And I was talking to Rob McCracken about Yulisinov, and he said, Ed, he's outstanding. And honestly,
why isn't it quite click for him?
Because I think he's had a mixture of trainers. You know, he started off with John David Jackson. He had Corey Spinks. He had a lot of different guys. And his dad, who was sort of the Kazakhstan boxing coach, was also in the corner. And I think on one hand, you got people like John David Jackson telling him to sit down in shots, and that's what we wanted to see. You know, and try and knock people out and work well on the inside. And then you got the dad saying, no, just outbox him, because no one can touch him if he boxes. But we don't want to see that. We want to see excitement. And all the footage I've seen of him from Delray Boxing Club sparring in his camp is him sitting in the pocket, is him setting his feet and unloading. And sometimes when they make that transition from the amateur to the pro game, it just takes them some time to sort of, you know, they move around a lot in the amateurs, it's in and out, it's point scoring. And the pro game's totally different, not just in terms of what you need to make it as a fighter, but what we need for entertainment. You know, Yulisanov's been hot and cold as a pro. Started off really hot, then went cold, then has been really hot the last couple of fights. And I think that's going to keep going. And honestly, I'm not afraid to put him in with anyone at 147 pounds. He can hold his own against all these guys now. And I think he's going to surprise a lot of people with how good he is.
I just want to kind of move back now to last weekend, starting with Conor Benn. We know obviously Josh Kelly's fight with David Avanesian should be taking place on the 23rd or 30th of January, but it comes through that fight, and it is because it is a difficult fight for Josh. But it comes through that fight. Is there any reason why that fight just can't be made straight after?
I think it's building perfectly, isn't it? I mean, it's funny, a year ago, a bit more, a lot of people were saying that was a mismatch. And I must admit, probably not a year ago, but maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, the thought of Conor fighting Josh Kelly, I was thinking, blimey, got a long way to go. Now, that's a great fight. It's a pick 'em fight. I know Josh and Adam think they win comfortably. Tony and Conor Benn think they can win that fight. Josh has got all the amateur pedigree, the style. Conor Benn is improving every single day. And he passed the test against Formella. A few people said, Formella didn't look as good. I thought, he's a quality fighter. Don't worry about that. But with all respect to Josh Kelly, he does have the sterner test in front of him in David Avanesian. I mean, Avanesian is a world-class welterweight. He's strong, he can punch, he won't stop coming forward, he's European champion already. This guy, this is a proper fight. So for Josh Kelly, not that he has to prove himself to fight Conor Benn, you could make that fight now. But the European Championship and another strong win by Conor Benn early next year, all of a sudden, that fight becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's a great fight. And everybody's on board. It's really what we're all working towards. But the only thing that can stop it is someone slipping up on the way. So you've got to be careful, especially when you're fighting the likes of Avanesian, and Conor will probably fight, Granados or Sammy Vargas, and they're all tough fights now. So I'm just enjoying that moment when the young prospects, you let them free. Ben did it against Formella, Kelly's now fighting Avanesian, and now anything can happen. And we're close to that with a lot of other young fighters. Anthony Fowler, we're ready to let him go free and take the big plunge. Joe Caldina, a lot of these guys, Boazzi, they're all ready now to take that big step into the big wide world and see if you're ready to fly.
Tom Little and Alan Babbage. We'll talk about Tom Little first. He said this week that we won't see Tom in a boxing ring again. The right decision, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think so, because I think Tom could come back and win fights at domestic level in the UK, but you don't want to become a journeyman, someone that gets sent in to sort of season these young prospects that are very good. I mean, he's had it tough, and he's boxed Hrgovic, Dubois, Majidov, Babic, and to be fair to Tom, all you can ever do in life is do your best and be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, I couldn't have done any more. He couldn't have done any more in that fight. But the reality is, he ain't good enough. And that's sport. If you're not good enough, you don't win. You can put the effort in, you can put your heart and soul in it, but ultimately it's about quality and about levels. And he wasn't good enough to beat Babic. I don't mean he ain't a good fighter, but he's not good enough to mix with, a very good heavyweight coming through, like Dubois, like Hrgovic. And there's no disgrace in that, by the way. But, the differences in the Dubois or Majidov and Hrgovic fight, he probably didn't have much of a camp. He probably didn't think he could win. So, but in this fight, he gave it everything, and he still come up short. But that's okay. You can handle that. You should be able to handle that in life if you've given it everything, but you've come up short. So, wish him all the best. He's a great lad. Fucking hilarious geezer. Hilarious geezer. He was brilliant in the bubble last week, and I think talks like, talks the greatest game ever. And he believed he was going to win against Babic, but like I said, he just wasn't good enough. He wasn't good enough to win that fight, and that's okay. He can hold his head up high and say, well, I gave it everything, and on we go with life. I think when anybody leaves the sport, some leave it in all kinds of different shapes. Some leave it with physical injuries, could be hands, could be knees, could be, unfortunately have suffered some kind of damage in a fight. Some leave it financially secure, people leave it without enough money, and you go into the big wide world, and it's quite scary, I think, when people walk away from boxing. I think that's why people suffer. I don't think Tom will suffer, because I think, although he does come across like a clown sometimes, I think his head's screwed up, and I think he'll be just fine. But it's very scary when you leave the world of boxing, because it's all you know. You know,
Who's the one person that's actually left over the last 5 years on a high? Because the only one I can think of
Tony
is...
Bellew, Darren Barker, Anthony Crolla.
When I say on a high, I mean in like not suffering a defeat in their final fight.
But generally, you only retire when you get beat. You know, when you keep winning, it's very unusual.
Apart from Carl Froch.
Yeah, Froch did it. And listen,
yeah.
actually, Froch should have fought Chavez in Vegas. That was his big dream to do it. But you have to respect the decision because he said, I don't want to fight. He wasn't motivated to fight anymore. So Carl made the right decision. You know, Tony Bellew, he was like that about fighting Usyk, to be honest with you. I think he could have walked away, but he also thought, fuck, I can fight for the undisputed championship of the world, and I believe I can beat this guy and become undisputed. So you can't knock him for trying to achieve that. That's everything. With Crolla retired on a defeat, you know, but it was a defeat that showed him that he didn't have it anymore. You know, Scott Quigg, he retired on a defeat. George Groves retired on a defeat. James DeGale. But mostly it's very unusual in boxing that someone...
give Froch credit for
that, because he left millions on the table and he would have smashed Chavez everywhere. But when the fire goes out, that's what we said about Dave Allen the other week. You know, Dave messaged me to fight Babbage on Saturday. I said no. I haven't even replied. I don't want to talk to him about it. It's a no. When we have that frank kind of conversation, when you know, right? And when you have that kind of frank conversation with someone that says, I don't want to get punched anymore. I'm not enjoying it. I don't think I'm as tough as I once was. I don't think I hold a shot as well as I once did. Time to go, right? And I know there's a chance to make money in that fight, but as much whatever you think of me, not on my watch. Right, because I can't do it. My credibility, which sometimes gets shot down, is in play when I tell you this guy should retire now. This guy don't like getting it anymore. This guy, you know, and then I'll just go and do a fight with Babbage, and he goes and gets stopped in 2 or 3 rounds. Could get hurt. Listen, he might win the fight, but it's just purely for money. And I don't knock fighters for taking fights for money. It's fucking the most dangerous sport in the world. That's why. The majority of reason, and probably the principal reason, these guys are in the sport is to earn their living. But not when you have that frank conversation with someone.
So how do they convince you otherwise? Say in 6 months' time, if they've had a conversation with someone, listen, I'm in a completely different space now, but how do they then convince you to work with them again after what's going on?
I don't know. I mean, look, it can happen. You know, Dave could end up... Hello?
Just picking this back up, Edward?
Yeah, it can happen. I mean, look, things change, people change, their mindsets change, but you can't have that conversation and then a week later say, get me a fight, because it just, it's not right. And, if you're talking about the position with Dave Allen, maybe in a year's time he wants to fight again, and he's fit and he's healthy and his mind's right, and, that's a conversation to be had. But I just want Dave to be happy. I want him to fight because, of course, listen, it's always tempting. Dave's made great money, but still he could do with a few more quid. And he's thinking, fucking hell, I could have that fight there. Babbage, that's a lot of money. And, I know I'm not really up for it or 100%, but I could. That's not right for me. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But Dave should just chill out now, get Christmas out of the way, and then see what 2021 brings. And I'm sure it'll bring a lot for him.
Right, this is the government issue section of IFL TV.
Oh, yes,
Stepping up. First of all, your open letter. I don't know the name of the MP, but you wrote...
Nigel Huddleston and Oliver Dowden.
Okay,
yeah.
so where are the MPs for?
The sports minister, the deputy sports minister for the British government.
So you this was in reference to the 300 million.
Yeah, I just felt that
survival package.
Like I had a good chat with England Boxing, who they're always banging their head against a brick wall, and I just felt that with my platform, I could make our voice heard in boxing. I think there's not one person in boxing that does not support this, and I was trying to do something about it. I don't know whether it will help. I mean, it's not going to do any harm, but there seems to be good momentum. There's things happening behind the scenes. Got another call with England Boxing this week. I just feel that it's ridiculous how time and time again boxing gets denied funding, whether that's at a British government, national or a local council level, right? You know the stories of fighters. You know the work that these clubs do in the community. You know the type of people that are in these gyms and what it's doing for them. So I just wrote to him and I said, even if you don't, and it's not necessarily their fault that they don't understand the work that these clubs do for the community. I mean, you'd hope that they would, but certainly local councillors, I believe, do know. But even if you're not a boxing fan, even if you don't understand, just understand the boxes that it ticks for you, the British government. It tackles obesity. It reduces mental health, problems, or improves mental health. It reduces gun and gang crime, knife crime, unquestionably. But most of all, it instills discipline and respect and manners into the next generation. So when you weigh that up, and this isn't about supporting boxing at the elite level, it ain't been easy for anybody to keep the sport going with no crowds, but we're not asking for money. Small hall club, I think the small hall shows have got more of a case to ask for funding, but they're not asking for funding. This is about the community. This isn't about trying to make sure that we can develop world champions. Of course, that can happen naturally. This is about the role that boxing clubs play within the community and what it does for the younger generation. And I fear that the younger generation is on a downward slide to physical, mental, emotional oblivion. And I believe boxing can save them and change that. And there's not one fighter you would ever speak to that wouldn't say either, boxing saved my life, how many times have you heard that? And boxing changed my life. And again, you've only got to go into these clubs. You know, when you go down Wickford or wherever, Billericay, it's full of tearaways, isn't it? You know where they'd be without boxing. They'd be fucking selling drugs or sitting on steep corners or stabbing someone. So we have such a problem with the youth in this country. So much lack of discipline, so much lack of direction, so much lack of manners and understanding. Sport teaches you about winning, about losing, about respect, and no sport teaches you better than boxing. So all sport is great, right? Rugby union, 135 million. Great sport. Horse racing, love it. Love a little trip to Ascot once a year, 40 bags. Well, not 40 bags, 40 mil. Motorsport, 6 million. Which of those sports do anything for the community, anything for society, and anything for the next generation? Rugby, okay, I'm sure, bringing young kids through playing rugby. Again, a tough sport that teaches you discipline and respect, but nothing in inner city areas that can help motivate and incentivise the young generation to change their lives, like boxing. Boxing isn't about entering a gym and becoming a world champion. Boxing is about putting a regimental lifestyle in your life and in your mindset to go out and change and achieve. And that's what's so frustrating. Because if people knew, and again, I don't say blame Nigel Huddleston, Oliver Dowden, but if they really knew, if they took the time to educate themselves, as they should, working as sports ministers, to understand the role that boxing plays in the community, I promise you, they wouldn't even hesitate. They would not hesitate to help fund grassroots boxing. So I'm just trying to make them see it, hear it. If I can get in front of them, if I can have a conversation, if they can hear this, then it's got to be good news for boxing. Because I promise you, these community clubs will die. We're creatures of habits, right? This goes for all sport for kids. If all of a sudden we're playing sport daily, weekly, we go to our clubs every week, we do this, and then for 8 or 9 months, that disappears out of your life. At the ages of 13, 15, 18, it goes. I would go boxing every Wednesday, boxing's cancelled, right? Because of the lockdown. Oh, okay, we're back open. Oh, the club's shut down. You're gone. There's no other local club to go. You go and do something else. So you go and play another sport, or you lose a little bit of discipline and direction, and you go and get in trouble. These kids that are in these predicaments, that are in these gangs, that are using knives, you don't see kids in boxing clubs get into trouble, do you? You go down to Repton, you go down Lyon, you go down any of these clubs, even Wickford, those kids aren't getting into trouble. You know? So I feel really strongly about it, and it really has frustrated me over the years that there is no help. But right now, when you see them giving out money for those sports, and by the way, those sports at the top levels, I mean, in rugby, it's going to the clubs. This is going to the community. So like I said, this is bigger than sport. And hopefully we can get some momentum, hopefully we can get in front of these people, and hopefully those clubs can get some help. And if they don't, we'll continue to help where we can with a foundation. We did it the other day with another club, and we're trying. Listen, AJ subsidises Finchley, you know, he puts a huge amount of money into that, and he's working on other schemes as well. But this is a bigger problem. And it'll never go away because all these clubs are funded locally. You know, they rely on donations, don't they? They rely on the volunteering of coaches who get paid nothing to go down and give their time. But most of them have local sponsors and local businesses that love boxing, and they believe and they understand the role they play in the community. But now, sponsorship and local sponsorships, it's not as easy anymore because some businesses have been shut down, some businesses aren't doing as well. So they can't just be supporting local initiatives and sponsorships. So the government must do it. And when they're supporting the sports that they are and the initiatives they are, that's what frustrates me. If they didn't support any sports, you know, we'd still ask for it. But when you see the money going into specific sports and nothing going into grassroots boxing, that aggravates me. And we've spent a lot of time talking on this now. So I think I've got my point across.
But you're talking about specifically grassroots as opposed to like creeping into like the professional game with small
Only
ball boxing.
grassroots, because I don't think, you know, I think boxing is never going to be, a PC enough for the government to get behind in that respect at grassroots, at small hall level. But there's no excuse at grassroots level with the role that it plays. I don't think there can be any argument. Give me an argument that should deny community boxing clubs the opportunity of funding right now when the amount of funding is going to those other sports. There's no argument to be had. So let's try and get in front of them. Let's just keep the momentum going, and let's keep supporting our local boxing clubs.
Indeed, Edward. Canelo-Smith and Canelo. Tickets were on sale.
Yeah, we sold, I think it was like 8,000 in the first day in Texas yesterday. We set up for about 11,000, so virtually sold out already. Of course, we're in the Alamo Dome, which holds, blimey, 60,000+. We'd love more tickets to be released, but unfortunately, you know, we need the distancing in place and we need everything to be safe in there. So it's just great to see fans back. Of course, we got Jacobs Rosado this weekend, and the day before Canelo-Smith is Triple G against Rematch in Florida in the Hard Rock. So hopefully we can get some in there as well.
In regards to Canelo-Smith and Canelo, is there a rehydration clause in the contract?
No.
Okay. Is there an option to put that in at any point?
Put what in?
A rehydration clause back in the contract?
No.
There isn't one?
No. It was not requested by Canelo Alvarez. I'm not sure it would have been accepted. I mean, I think, to be honest with you, there was a stage when Canelo Alvarez was a small 168 pounder, but don't forget his last fight was at 175 pounds. So I don't think Canelo Alvarez wants to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning on fight day and reweigh. I don't think, you know, Callum is a massive 168, and he'll definitely be heavier than Canelo on the night. But I mean, don't sort of underestimate Canelo's size. I know he's much shorter, but he will want to rehydrate properly himself, and it wasn't something that was requested.
Okay. Is that have something to do with the fact that he's not involved with Golden Boy anymore?
No, I just think if Canelo was bothered about a £10 rehydration, he would ask for it, and you know, maybe he doesn't want. You know, it would have to be reciprocal. It wouldn't be you have to weigh in. We'd both have to weigh in, and I guess he doesn't want to weigh in. He wants his opportunity to rehydrate probably more than £10.
Rematch clause?
Yes.
For Canelo?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Standard in all Canelo fights.
Yes.
Never been involved with a Canelo fight where there's no rematch clause. And that goes for every major fighter. I mean, I know that, you know, Bob Arum, yesterday I was lying, today I'm telling the truth. I hate rematch clauses, they're a disgrace. And then obviously Kell Brook had a rematch clause, or Crawford had a rematch clause against Brook. It's standard practice. You'd be misrepresenting your client if in those kind of circumstances if you didn't have a rematch clause.
When was the last time you were involved in a fight where the champion or the home fight had a fight of that magnitude that didn't have a rematch clause?
I mean, when Vasily Lomachenko boxed Anthony Crolla,
yeah,
the deal nearly fell through because Aaron wouldn't accept the fight without a rematch clause. When Vasily Lomachenko fought Luke Campbell, the fight nearly fell through because we said we didn't want a rematch clause, and Aaron said we must have a rematch clause. So this is, you know, the general basis of those conversations. No rematch clause. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. White Chisora? Usyk Chisora?
Usyk.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Usyk was number one. I know there was no belt on the line, there was no interim world title or anything like that, but Usyk Chisora, no rematch clause. Mm-hmm. White Povetkin 2, no rematch clause.
It's not the norm, is it? It's not the norm.
What's not the norm?
Not to have a rematch clause.
Not when there's a title on the line, a valuable title on the line, or a huge name that is giving someone the opportunity to earn a huge amount of money to take that fight. No, it's not the norm. But I'll just tell you how it is straight. I'm not going to dodge around the question. I'll just tell you every time. If you ask me, I'll tell you. And some people say, oh, I don't, you know, it's like, Bob, it's a load of bollocks. You know, it's just that for Vasily Lomachenko against Teofimo Lopez, it was a unification between two belt holders, and there was no rematch clause. So if Devin Haney boxes Teofimo Lopez, there'll be no rematch clause. No. If Billy Joe Saunders boxes Callum Smith, there'll be no rematch clause. It's just standard. But when you get in a voluntary defence, or you're fighting a megastar of the sport, then 99% of the time there will be a rematch clause. Now the terms of that rematch clause sometimes different. Sometimes it has to be mutually agreed in good faith, which can mean maybe it will never happen. Sometimes there's an amount specified in a contract. These are things that I'm not going to go into you with because they're confidential. But you know, it's common practice mostly.
What happens in the event of a mandatory challenger, not a voluntary, do they have the right to not to agree to a rematch clause?
No, generally it depends on the wording of the contract.
So
some rematches clauses,
for example.
Yeah, no, some rematch clauses will almost be regardless of the belt situation or a mandatory situation. They'll supersede. And generally, you would always want that protection of your superstar, if you want, because otherwise it's not really a rematch clause, is it? It's, oh, well, I can get out of that if I've got a mandatory challenger. Do you know what I mean? So every clause is different depending on the wording. And that, my friend, is your 15 minutes of education on rematch clauses.
Thank you very much. Edward, who is likely, aside from John Ryder, who we know could feature or likely to feature on the Canelo-Smith card?
Golovkin card.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Ryder is not down.
Okay.
No, Ryder is. We're discussing at the moment. He could. John Ryder. I'll just tell you how it is. So, Canelo was the regular champion. He's now fighting Smith for the Super Championship. John Ryder will fight for the WBO regular world title in early 2021, and it looks like he will fight Chudinov. Okay. So, but I want to get him out and box him because he hasn't boxed in a year. So my plan is to box him on the Golovkin card. Okay. And listen, could end up being a reserve for the Canelo-Callum Smith fight. He'll be out there, he'll be ready to go. So yeah, that's the plan with him. Also Ali Akhmedov who's Golovkin's charge on that card. Yeah. Troy, our super featherweight world champion, will fight on that card as well. Reshat Mati and others. And on the Canelo card will be Julio Cesar Martinez, will be defending his WBC world title. Will be another fight that I'm working on at the moment, could be Frank Sanchez as well, which is Eddie Reynoso's heavyweight, Diego Pacheco, Amo Williams, and Alexis Espina.
No other Brits on that card,
no, not on the Canelo card, no.
Okay. So, like, moving forward now, are you looking to work with Canelo on all his fights? Or?
I want Callum-Smith to knock him out. I mean, that's what I want.
Yeah,
so, look, I think with the, with my DAZN USA hat on, that was a major coup for Matchroom to be able to help make that fight. I mean, as I've stated before, Canelo is the boss. Canelo controls everything. But we got an opportunity to deliver for our fighter, Callum-Smith, in the opportunity of a lifetime. So I'm over the moon. And my whole focus is on Callum-Smith winning that fight. Now, if Callum-Smith wins that fight, it's likely that you're going to end up seeing another fight anyway with Canelo. If Callum-Smith loses that fight and DAZN want me to try and make the Golovkin fight, which is another one of the fighters that I work with, or Billy Joe Saunders, then I'll do that. So I think that win or lose, this is going to be the start of a longer term relationship with Canelo Alvarez. I mean, that's down to him. He's the boss, and Eddie Reynoso. But so far, we managed to get a deal done against all odds. So far, I think everyone's happy. But my focus is obviously to see Callum-Smith shock the world in that fight and beat Canelo Alvarez. But again, if he loses, then we'll be doing the next fight. And if he wins, then, as I said to Canelo Alvarez, I think after the Danny Jacobs fight, he said to me, give me more. So what he meant by that was he's beaten Rocky Fielding, he's beaten Danny Jacobs, and he was talking about Billy Joe Saunders and Callum-Smith. So now he's fighting one of them, and if he was to beat Callum-Smith, then he'd say, give me more, and I'd have to make the Golovkin fight or the Billy Joe Saunders fight, etc. But like I said, I'm not. He's not yet a Matchroom fighter. We're just working together. But Callum-Smith is my guy, and that's whose team I'm on for this fight certainly. And I want to see him do the business and get the win.
Do they give you indication, whether it's Eddie Reynoso or Canelo, that they still are interested in fighting Billy Joe Saunders?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, that's why I think, although this is a fight-by-fight arrangement, there is no doubt that Canelo Alvarez looks at Matchroom and DAZN and goes, Callum-Smith, Billy Joe Saunders, Gennady Golovkin, well, that's me for a year and a half. As long as the deal's right, it's the perfect schedule. So I think that's the plan of action. He thinks he's going to beat Callum-Smith, and then he's going to fight Billy Joe, or he's going to fight Gennady Golovkin, and probably whoever he don't fight first, he fights second. And then he's 2021. I think these people think they're unbeatable, and they might be very good, But they truly believe they will beat everyone, and they don't mind fighting anyone. So. Yeah, like I said, win or lose, I'm sure this is the start of a relationship with Canelo Alvarez. But again, he's the boss, he calls the shots. And, ultimately, I work for the fighters. I work in this fight for Callum-Smith, and I'm working for Canelo Alvarez to put the show on and, help out. But he's the boss, he controls everything, and we'll see if Callum-Smith can do the biz up.
I'll tell you what, that $199 from DAZN is looking great value.
Yeah, well, that's the global price, obviously, and for me, my focus, I've got a lot of unfinished business in America. And, when you look at the American schedule on DAZN, and you say Danny Jacobs against Rosado, Billy Joe Saunders against Martin Murray, Gennady Golovkin against Zerameta, Canelo Alvarez against Callum-Smith, Ryan Garcia against Luke Campbell, that's all within virtually a month on the US schedule, right? So once again,
and AJ
against Buddha. Yeah, small part of it's that, and AJ against Buddha. So when you look at that, the value that we are delivering in the US to fight fans is unprecedented. Once again, DAZN in America has the best schedule of any American platform, hands down, to close out the year. They did it last year and they're doing it again. And when you see what they're going to deliver in the US in 2021, I'm extremely motivated. And, Mike Coppinger tweeted and said, fucking hell, people liking to slate Eddie Hearn a few months ago saying, I think he's done in the US. Mate, I ain't even got started yet. We're coming on like a fucking steam train. And we're going to close this year with a huge bang. And next year will be the biggest year you have ever seen for Matchroom Boxing. I'm telling you now, it will be on another level globally. We're the only global promoters in the world. No one is doing shows in different territories and regions like we are. No one. We're the only show in town. And next year, we will take the global sport of boxing to another level. Save it, log it, do whatever you got to do.
Let's talk about obviously another government issue, Edward, which is slightly positive news that indoor arenas can contain up to 1,000 fans.
Or 2,000 fans, it's in tier 1.
Yeah, but
Tier 2. For now.
Tier 2 for now. Unless you want to do a show in the Isle of Wight.
Yes, or Cornwall.
Cornwall.
It's nice this time of year.
Why not? So how's this exactly going to work for AJ Pulev?
So there's still a lot of work to do. Okay, so we don't really have any guidelines yet. You know, what are you? Is it different households buying tickets? Are you allowed to have a beer in the venue? Do you have to have a substantial meal when you have the beer? I mean, there are so many boxes to tick. But to be honest, it's more for 1,000 people. I mean, for the AJ fight, it's slightly different, but generally, it's more aggravation than it's worth, right? But we have to get the ball rolling to bring crowds back. We can't say, oh, you've been given 1,000. Oh, do you know what? We'll leave it. We have to bring the 1,000 back. Then we have to bring the 2, the 5, the 10, the 20. So we are waiting on a conversation and a decision from Brent Council, because Brent Council have to approve essentially the government blueprint. And I guess we're still waiting for that blueprint as well. And this is something that sits across our sports, not just boxing. You've got the World Championship at Alexandra Palace coming up for darts. You know, you've got big snooker events going on at the moment. Moscone Cup. So this is something that's affecting our business as a whole. But in terms of boxing, we certainly aren't looking, although it sits 2 days after the new ruling, to bring fans back for the Billy Joe Saunders fight. I think that's just unrealistic. It's a week away. You know, we haven't even got the guidelines yet. So next Tuesday, we will learn more from Brent Council about the possibility, and if it's possible and if it's safe, and we will go ahead and we will bring 1,000 fans in for Anthony Joshua against Kubrat Pulev.
But do those 1,000 tickets go out, or would it be like, I don't know, maybe?
Well, again, this is a conversation. Until we know the rules, you know, who governs it? Is it Matchroom? Is it Wembley Arena? Is it the council? I don't know. But if it's doable, if it's safe, and logistically possible for us to do it for December 12th, we will do it, and we will have 1,000 fans in for AJ against Pulev.
Is there any option for like early part next year for you to do anything outdoor nights, January and etc.?
Not really.
Just the
I mean,
fact of getting more
I
people
think
in.
is it up to 2,000 outdoors?
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, you know, you're talking about small numbers. There comes a point where, right now, we've got a really good model in place to keep boxing moving. Okay, keep the business moving, keep the sport moving. Again, the closing part of this year is the best schedule, the best finish I've ever put on in boxing, right? So, and we're in the middle of a pandemic. So, again, it just goes back to our our obligation and our responsibility to bring fans back. Because for 1,000 people, you know, for a normal show, and we're in Wembley. Again, you never go to Wembley to sell 1,000 tickets, do you? You know, you go to Wembley to sell 8,000. If you want to sell 1,000 tickets, go to York Hall. Well, actually, York Hall might end up being an option for people moving forward, because if York Hall's capacity is, I don't know, 1,100, 1,200, you can get 600 people in York Hall, and actually you can make the finances work. So I think it's good news for the small hall shows as well, and the non-televised shows. But again, we all got to push now to say, okay, we've done that, and we've got to show the government and show the council how well boxing can do at coordinating and policing that distancing element into arenas, and trying to keep pushing as the numbers fall, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000. And hopefully, I'm looking at it really and saying, spring, summer next year is our chance of returning to normality. But how do I know? Just a keyboard warrior when it comes to COVID.
So, is there the possibility that you don't have fans there?
Yeah, definite possibility.
What, for AJ Pulev?
Yeah, because they could come in and say, you've got to do this, you've got to do this, the fans can't do this, they've got to come, I mean, and then in the end you look at it and go, but we'll do everything we can, and we'll try and overcome every obstacle we can, but at some point you might look at it and say, this is just not feasible. So, but we have no idea what that ruling is. Till we get the guidelines, we can't make the decision. But if it's doable, we will do it.
Is your card set now? For
Not
AJ
completely,
Pooler?
no. There's 2 or 3 more fights to still be announced. So you've got Sissoko against Kieran Conway.
Yeah, that's a great fight.
Great fight.
Yeah.
Brilliant fight. Bakoli against Kuzman, great fight. Huey Fury against Wack, great fight. Akoli against Glowacki, great fight. AJ against Pulev, great fight. And probably 2 or 3 more still to come.
2 or 3 more. What are you having on that? 8 or 9?
8, yeah.
8. What's your limit on that? At the moment?
8.
8. Does it annoy you to talk about pay-per-view?
Not really. Been doing it for about 10 years.
I know. Seems like every now and again.
Mate, I don't give a fuck. You can ask me whatever you want. Anything you want. I don't care. I really don't care. That's the difference between me and others.
Okay.
You can ask me whatever you want,
Right.
and I won't get you to edit anything. I won't get you to change anything. I won't have a go at you. I won't ban you from anywhere. I might tell you to fuck off afterwards. But that's what's made you and me. Because you've always asked me whatever you want, and I've always told you the truth.
Okay, so
Apart from Dillian White getting up at 8, and that wasn't even your interview.
no, that wasn't my interview. So you've given the reasons why December 12th stays at not increased from stays at 24.95. So if, for example, AJ fights Alexander Usyk with a crowd next year, okay, does that then drop back down to 19.95?
Not necessarily. I don't. To be honest, I mean, why are you fucking asking me that for? No, I'm joking. So when AJ boxed Andy Ruiz, okay, won.
Yeah.
It was £19.95, right? He lost his heavyweight world title. He came back in a big fight as a challenger to Andy Ruiz, and it was £24.95. Okay. He then beat him, and he became the king again. He became a 2-time world champion. Okay, a bigger name, a bigger draw, a bigger star. Okay. During this situation with Pulev, I don't even know if I can't honestly tell you that if we had 80,000 at Spurs, whether this would, I don't even think it would have been £19.95. So actually, I could even give you the excuse to say, well, we've got no crowd, so I had to make it £24.95. That just might be the new price moving forward for Anthony Joshua. He is a complete superstar, and his pay-per-view price is more expensive than Dillian White or Derek Chisora. Now, will the AJ Usyk fight, would that be £24.95? I don't know, probably.
Yeah, but have you decided this in the last 6 months?
Nothing's been decided. There's no strategy moving forward saying, right guys, let's all agree that the new price is X. With this situation, with the size of AJ since the win over Andy Ruiz, £24.95 was the decision taken for this fight. It's not 1 penny more than his last fight, where he fought as a challenger to Andy Ruiz. Now, again, I could spin you the line and say, well, there's no crowds. And has that played a decision? Maybe, because you've lost £10 million worth of revenue from the show. So we're not going to reduce the pay-per-view price, to be honest with you. We're going to keep it the same. You know, I mean, there is an argument to increase it because of the lost revenue. So I think I saw even my old mate Frankie Warren even said, no, I think they're what, you know, I understand. It's not, for me, I think a lot of people, I've seen a lot of people say, Matchroom Sky increased the AJ pay-per-view to £24. No, we haven't. It's the same price as the last fight. Now, at the time, when you asked me that question, is this the price moving forward? The answer was, no, I don't know. That conversation hasn't taken place.
Yeah, but didn't you indicate that this was kind of, that price was specific to that fight?
But what I say a year ago can be very different to what I say now, especially coming off a global pandemic. So the fact is, I wouldn't really, people like the hardcore boxing community love a debate about this, where you need to just chill out and just relax and say, AJ's pay-per-view price is the same as the last fight. Okay? We have no fans, no problem. We take that on the chin, accepted. That's what we're doing. And once again, and I hate saying, if you don't like it, don't buy it, because I think that's disrespectful to people. But ultimately, you have a choice. If you want to watch the biggest star in world boxing, if you want to watch, in my opinion, the best heavyweight of our generation at the moment right now, if you want to watch a great night of boxing, a great card, and by the way, there's 90,000 people, well actually, there's 150,000 people that wanted to buy a ticket for Anthony Joshua against Kubrat Pulev. 150,000 tickets. That's how many tickets I could have sold for this fight. We would have gone sale on Spurs for 70 or 80,000 like that in day one. And they now can't go. And they were willing to pay an average price of, I don't know, 250 quid a head. And now they can't go and they can watch it from the sofa with whatever the official partner will be, potentially Deliveroo, potentially Pizza Hut, for £24.95 for a massive night of boxing and the unified heavyweight champion of the world. And that, my friend, is our offering to you. Whether you purchase it or not, you will review it, you'll evaluate it, and you'll make your decision. But we are not charging 1 penny more than his last fight. And we can debate it all we like. But
that's not the argument, is it? It's not the argument of
but the argument
your
is
choice to do it, is it? Because boxing fans are going to pay it, aren't they?
That completely go. But that's that goes against everything, because you're setting a price of a product that people are going to pay because they feel like it provides them with value. I mean, so what I should make it.
Just because they're paying for it doesn't mean they agree with what they're paying for.
They'll never agree with it, mate. They'll never agree with it. They've never agreed with one pay-per-view I've ever done. But this is how it is. So, you look at Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury could not fight. Forget £24.95, because that would have been his pay-per-view price against Kabayel or Takan. Don't worry about that.
This is what Frank said the other day. He said,
so there you go.
Similar to that.
So, all right, let's just put things in perspective. So, Tyson Fury against Ajit Kabayel would have been £24.95. Mike Tyson against Roy Jones Jr. in what is it? It's an exhibition. No one can win. No one can throw a punch. If it gets cut, they stop. It's an absolute. That's £19.95. You're about to watch the biggest star in world boxing in a mandatory defence. Another Brit fight for a world title. Another British heavyweight in a tough fight. A great fight between Bakody Kuzmin, Suzuka against Coleman for £24.95. So make your choices. I'll tell you what. Buy Mike Tyson against Roy Jones at 4 o'clock in the morning this week, and don't watch AJ fight. Fucking hell.
So you were saying that if Joshua had fought at White Hart Lane, with a full crowd, there was a good chance
it would have been 20.
It would have been the same.
Yes.
It would have been the same, wouldn't it?
I can't give you a concrete answer, but there's a very good chance it would have been £24.95. But certainly with no crowds, it wasn't even a discussion point. Wasn't even a discussion point to keep it the same.
Did they ring you,
Who?
Sky? Did they ring you for input on this?
No, I just think. I mean, obviously,
you get the brunt of it.
But again, when when a decision was made to make £24.95, AJ against Rees smashed pay-per-view numbers, done over 1 million buys at £24.95. Do you not understand, as someone that prices a product, if all of a sudden that price point has just smashed pay-per-view numbers, and I know it was a bigger fight than Kubrat Pulev, even though the level of opposition is exactly the same, right? That price, with no crowd, with everything going on, with AJ having won, become a 2-time champion, become an even bigger star, it's okay to keep that price the same. Right? It's just logic, right? And with everything going on, but again, no one's ever going to be happy, and it just comes down to the same thing. I'm not going to sit here and say, stop moaning, buy it or don't moan it. But stop moaning and buy it or don't moan it. That's what it comes down to. That is what we feel we're going to deliver value for you on December 12th.
So we can just accept now that moving forward, Anthony Joshua, aside from the Tyson Fury fight, his pay-per-view price will be set at £24.95.
I mean, again, right now, in this conversation, I would say it's very likely that will be AJ's pay-per-view price moving forward. But what I won't do is say that will be the price of a Tyson Fury fight, which you just said.
Aside from
but I don't know. Look, listen, I mean, you can shoot yourself in the foot on certain things, but I'm pretty confident, right, to tell you that there is no fight out there could come back to haunt me, because I'm telling you as what I believe today, that would increase AJ's pay-per-view price from £24.95 other than Tyson Fury. And even when you say to me, well, what would the price be for that? I have got no clue. But I would be shocked.
We'd love to think of
I would be shocked.
$29.99.
Yes, I would be shocked if that price did not start with a 2. And I don't think, it could be 200. Can you imagine? Hearn announces AJ Fury, 201 quid. No, but that's again. I don't sound like a creep, but I just tell you the honest truth, right? And sometimes a year later it can come back and bite me in the arse. But when I tell you that the price goes £24.95 when Josh was challenging Reese for the world title, at the time that was a decision for that fight only.
What was the Dillian White fight? 1995.
Correct.
Okay.
And Usyk Chisora, £19.95. So I don't, listen, Usyk and Dillian.
What's the lowest pay-per-view you've done?
Buys?
No, as in terms of price.
Can't even remember.
Have you done a 14.95?
Yeah. Probably.
Wasn't Harris?
Yeah, that was, yeah, but £14.95 went to £19.95. I want to say the Klitschko fight, maybe 3 years ago, something like that. Yeah, I mean, it's just AJ, to be honest with you, and Tyson Fury. I think Tyson Fury's pay-per-views are £24.95. Again, Frank said it, but his fight against Wilder was £24.95. Big fight, but 4 o'clock in the morning. Okay, if he fought in December, Takam or Kabiel, would have been £24.95. This looks like it could be AJ's price moving forward, and other pay-per-views are £19.95. I thought, oh mate, listen, I'm happy to debate it all day long, because no one's ever going to agree with everybody.
I think when people kind of look on the whole of everything that they pay for, I suppose, and it's not specific to boxing, it's like your BT Sports subscription.
Of course, but my business is delivering a pay-per-view product that's going to provide customers with value, and I believe I do every time. And actually, now I believe that this is the correct price for this specific show, for this specific fighter. And if you don't agree with me, I accept that. But there's going to be hundreds of thousands and absolute masses of people that will be purchasing this fight, supporting Anthony Joshua, who couldn't get a ticket, who love watching AJ, who love watching the best heavyweight in the world, in my opinion, and a great fighter with a great card. And that's it.
Do you price your tickets the same, or do
if we get 1,000?
If you get 1,000, or will they?
To be honest, I don't think there'll be any kind of considerable price increase, no, because you're not going to have, if you're thinking
ringside,
no, there'll be no ringside seats, because that's the zone, So the tiered seats, I think the tiered seats would be the same pricing as a tiered seat at the Wembley Arena or the O2, where this fight was originally scheduled for when it was rescheduled. Yeah, I think it'll be the same. But it's not, we've accepted that, like Canelo Alvarez accepted that he is taking a considerable pay cut to get out and fight. Right? So we've based this fight on 0 fans. So it's not like we're now going, oh my God, we've got fans, we need them to keep everyone happy. If there is additional revenue, it's marginal. It's nothing in the grand scheme of things. You're 1,000 tickets. We lost 80,000 tickets. That's what we lost. But AJ, Pulev, Callum, Canelo, all these fighters have taken pay cuts for what they wanted for this fight, because they want to fight. They want to defend their world titles and they want to keep the momentum.
Just one more question.
Some haven't.
Just one more question about the pay-per-view. If, hypothetically, Anthony Joshua, right, turned around to you and Sky, whoever, and said, do you know what? I want this set at 1995. Does he have that power to do that? Yes. But I'm not saying he would. I'm saying that he has the power. It's his show.
AJ, it's our response. AJ although AJ is the complete boss, and I work for Anthony Joshua, Anthony fights. He's not going to me saying, Eddie, what do you think about the pay-per-view price for this, mate? it's my job to say where you are now with what we need to deliver for the show. You know, with Sky's position, we're all happy that this is the price point. Now, if it got to a point where, you know, he wasn't happy with the price point, but it's not something that comes into his thoughts when he's doing 12 rounds of sparring with 4 different heavyweights.
No, I shouldn't imagine it is.
Do you know what I mean? So blame it on me. Don't blame it on AJ. Blame it on me.
I wasn't blaming. I just said, does he have that?
Blame it on me.
Is it Sky's decision that he,
I think
where
it's
they
just
consult
a
him?
marketplace decision. It's just a business decision of common sense, to be honest with you. And that's the price point that's set. No fans, but no price increase. And if you want to blame anyone, blame me. Not a problem.
You get the blame anyway.
I get the blame all the time, but I've come to accept it. It's not a problem.
Are you going to tune into Daniel Dubois and Joe Joyce?
Yes, I will. Actually, I don't have BT, but I will. You know, if I think you can join for a night or something like that. I think it's a good fight. I'm looking forward to it because I've got to know Sam Jones a little bit lately with Johnny Fisher and Laurent Richards, and yeah, I think it's a good fight. I mean, it's a real, you get every now and again you get a really good sort of British title domestic, tear up, and this is it. This is a good fight, and I don't know what's going to happen. Got my predictions, but
I swear you told me you would have stuck this on pay-per-view.
I don't know.
I think you used the term like if you built the card around it.
Maybe, yeah. It is. I mean,
I'm pretty sure.
I think with how busy the pay-per-view marketplace is, I mean, there's no way it does 100,000 buys on BT. No way, this fight. But I think it's great that it's not on pay-per-view, especially for those guys, because you've got two guys who, if you look at the last viewing figures, Dubois was quite solid, a lot of help off the football, but still. But Joe Joyce, really, actually quite poor numbers for the Woolwich fight. So if you want to push these guys as stars, the worst thing you can do is do a pay-per-view that does 50,000 buys. So I think Frank and BT, I think it's a good, because if they believe in one of them, and let's just get one thing right, the only person they care about in this fight is Daniel Dubois. If they believe in Dubois and they want to make him a star, this is going to be a big help for that. So I think,
Who wins the fight for you? The fighters
I don't know. Like, you listen to Sam Jones and you think that Joe Joyce is unbeatable, but Sam Jones falls in love with his fighters. I do it myself sometimes. I think that if Joe can move his head a little bit and not get hit early on in the fight, I think he's got a good chance as the fight goes on. I don't know. I think listen, I know sparring, but I know a lot of fighters, some that we represent, that have badly hurt Dubois in sparring, and no one's really yet to hit him on the chin hard in the pro heavyweight game. So does he like it back? He's a very good fighter. He's a very strong puncher. Is he one-dimensional? The one thing that worries me is that he went the distance with Kevin Johnson, like recently. And Kevin is,
wasn't that recent?
What was it? A year and a half ago? Something like that? Wasn't it? 2 years ago? But at a time where Kevin was getting stopped, and I don't know. I think you got to box Dubois, but he hits very hard. He's very dangerous. Joe's massive. The problem is with Joe is when you watch Joe Joyce, like the amount of, like, even my mates that have watched Joe Joyce phone me up and go, "Oh my God, that Joyce is absolutely useless." I say, "No, he's not. He can really fight." You speak to Tyson Fury, I've heard him say, speak to AJ, the guy just keeps coming. But with 10-ounce gloves on, and again, Dubois can punch, you just mustn't get hit early.
Do you have a pick for the Mike Tyson and Jones fight?
What I'm going to do is, I'm going to try and find a way to watch the other fight, and then I'm going to go to sleep, right? And I'm going to wake up in the morning, and I quite like doing that. I did it with, when Kell Brook fought the other night, I finished the show and I thought, I'll stay up and watch it, and I was sort of drifting off. Anyway, I woke up, and then when you go through Twitter and you start reading it, it's quite exciting. With Roy Jones against Tyson Fury, again, for £4 or £5 less than Anthony Joshua, I'm just going to wake up in the morning and go, oh my God. And it's like, I don't know, one bloke fell over and like someone swung a punch and then the ref stopped it.
One bloke and someone. Mike Tyson and Roy Jones there, mate.
I'll come.
You must be curious to watch it. It's like...
No. I don't knock them for doing it. They're both legends. Good luck to them. But I have absolutely no curiosity to watch that fight at all.
I think KOs are allowed now, aren't they? I think so.
Listen, you got Oscar De La Hoya coming out of retirement, haven't you? By the sounds of things.
So, would you get involved in his comeback?
I mean, he is certainly a lot fresher than those guys, physically. And how old is Oscar? Early 40s? What are they, 50 something?
They're in their 50s.
Yeah.
55 and 51 or two.
I don't know. I just think a lot of these fighters that have retired are going to look at it and say, you know, nice few quid, isn't it? I'll have another go. Canelo, Oscar De La Hoya said he wanted to fight Triple G. I think Triple G might fancy that.
YouTube fights. What's going on?
Nothing really. There's one on the card, isn't there?
Yeah,
two YouTubers fighting.
Jake Paul and
Robinson.
Nate.
Yeah. So there's another YouTube fight.
Are you promoting another YouTube fight?
Not at the moment, no. I would do it. I would do KSI Jake Paul. Jake Paul can fight
Another one.
What?
Well, it all come up on my timeline the other day.
What?
Of just like
Good,
reminiscing
what,
about LA.
What do you mean? Your bank statement come up on that show?
I'm just
Yeah. Well, Logan Paul's fighting Floyd Mayweather, isn't he?
Is he?
I think so.
You going to promote that?
No.
Help promote that?
No. That's awful, mate. That's awful.
You should never ever knock any of these fights because you're
No,
the sort
but
of
I would
person
not do that. Listen, I don't mind putting two guys in that at least it's like, I mean, even
What,
Conor...
equally matched? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Would you not say like two 50-year-olds like Roy Jones and Tyson are equally
Yeah,
matched?
I much prefer that than Mayweather Logan Paul, don't you?
Yeah, that one.
Be honest.
Yes.
So I can't tell you that obviously I wouldn't have promoted McGregor Mayweather because I would have. But although that was a complete mismatch, at least Conor can fight, box. Logan Paul, like against, so you've got a bloke who lost his professional debut against another YouTuber fighting one of the best fighters of our generation. That's bollocks. Listen, again, going back to Jones against Tyson, I just don't like all the, let him have it.
Either
Right?
fight or fight.
Yes, don't like, because what's probably going to happen is the ref's going to stop it and say, oh, don't do that, and then someone's going to get out of breath and knackered and cut, and the fight's going to, and everyone's going to go, what the fuck? At least just let him go at it. But the other one, what is that? What is Mayweather against Logan Paul? You come on, be honest.
No,
I mean, you won't
one-
say it because you're shitting yourself you won't get an interview.
With who?
Well, anyone. It's all you ever
What are
do.
you on about?
Oh, sit on the
No,
fence.
I've just said to you, I agree with the whole Mayweather and Logan Paul.
So you're saying that that's a farce, that fight?
I'm not going to.
So you would never want to be part of it. No, but what I'm
farce.
saying is you wouldn't, with your credibility and integrity for the sport of boxing,
Would I cover
you
it?
certainly wouldn't cover that fight.
I would cover it in a second.
So what you're saying is you just don't, you have no class, no respect, no integrity for the sport.
That's not what I'm saying, no. And
Yet you would cover it to make money.
But I know.
You're disgusting.
If Mayweather got
You
in touch
disgust
with
me.
you, yeah?
You disgust me.
If Mayweather
So
got in
you're
touch
telling
with you,
me
and said,
you would do things.
Hey, do you want to help us with this Logan Paul fight? You would 100%
I wouldn't.
Talking bollocks.
I wouldn't. I promise you, I wouldn't. I swear.
You would.
I would not.
Now you wouldn't because this has gone
No,
out.
it doesn't
Now you
matter. It
think-
doesn't matter. I'll promise you, I would not get involved. Me and you are different, mate. Right? You think I just do things to make a pound note? You disgust me.
How's your book coming on?
Fucking really good.
Oh dear. Listen, what's relevant today may not be relevant in 6
Just keep
months.
fucking smiling, will you? For God's sake, people are so angry.
Okay, well, something else to ask you. Who was going to ask you about? I wanted to ask you about Callum Johnson actually. Anything?
No, I made Callum Johnson an offer.
Yeah.
About, blimey, I want to say 6 weeks ago, maybe a little bit more. And the offer was to have a run-out fight in November, to fight for the European title, and then fight Boazzi. And I didn't hear back, and then I heard back from Joe, and he said, Callum said, it's not enough money. That was it. I said, all right. That was it. Not, we'd like this, or, you know, how about this plan?
Him saying it's not enough money, sure, it's indication for you to then increase the money?
Not necessarily. Not as blunt as that. No, not really. But, you know, ultimately, it's hard to get people out at the moment. I gave, you know, there was an opportunity for Callum Johnson to box this year. And the same goes for Natasha Jones. But by the way, they don't have to accept the deal. And they don't have to fight for us. They're like two fighters that don't have a contract with Matchroom. They don't have an obligation to fight for me. I don't have an obligation to give them fights. I'd love them to fight for me. I would have much preferred Natasha Jonas was in the ring making money and progressing her career than commentating on the fight. I would much rather that Callum Johnson was getting paid to fight and actually get a run out in November than being frustrated in the gym. But they chose not to accept it, and I just gave that opportunity to someone else. Doesn't mean I'm not working with Callum Johnson and Tasha again. I'd love to. But I gave them an opportunity to take that slot. They didn't take it. Someone else did. But you don't just roll over and take any offer that Matchroom gives. So they didn't like the offer. They didn't have to take it. But there was no communication. Someone else might have phoned me up and gone, listen, what about if we do this? What about if we do this? Like, you know, and we would have got a deal done. But it was like, no, it's not enough money. Okay, I'll give it to someone else. But you have to ask yourself.
Liam Smith as well?
No, Liam Smith. No offer for Liam Smith to fight this year. I'm trying to make Jesse Vargas against Liam Smith for early next year. That's the fight. But with Callum and Natasha, they both had the opportunity to fight very straightforward, easy fights, get paid this year, and fight and progress. A bit different for Tash because she did box in August. Do you know what I mean? But there's no point just being in the gym. Get out there and progress your career. But again, it doesn't mean you have to take. I felt the offers were very good, and actually, in one instance, even their management company thought that the offer was fantastic, but it wasn't to them, and that's their prerogative, their choice. But I would love to work with them in the future. But right now, those opportunities that I presented to them were taken by somebody else. It's very difficult to get slots for fighters at the moment. Again, we're approaching the end of the year. Now some people that wanted to box in December are having to box in early January, and we're going to start our shows 23rd or maybe even a week earlier. And you're just going to have to, you know, normally a fighter would want to get out before Christmas and, you know, come back in spring. That don't exist anymore. You just got to be ready, stay ready, and take your opportunity. And if you wanted to fight in December, you may be fighting 3 or 4 weeks later in January. So Christmas is cancelled this year.
Okay, last thing. Just list me out your ideal January. How you want it to pan out, show-wise.
Well, we have Warrington against Kanzu, which we're planning at the moment.
Where?
Well, hopefully in Leeds. It would be nice.
What tier are Leeds in?
Leeds, I believe, are tier 3 at the moment, are they?
Possibly.
Let me just have a quick look at that. It's quite interesting. Tier 3. Yeah, so we need that to change. If not, we'll do it in London. We're not going to be allowed 5,000-10,000 in January anyway, that's for sure. So you've got Warrington Kanzu, you've got Avanesian against Kelly, which will either go on a Dillian White card or a standalone Saturday night fight.
The week before?
23rd. I mean, all these fights are around that time. White Povetkin scheduled for January the 30th.
Could that change?
No, I mean, you know, could it move a week back? I mean, at the moment, Povetkin's not in camp yet, but he's been at home resting for the last couple of weeks, so he'll be resuming his camp soon. So I don't see that fight changing date now.
Are you staying at Wembley?
I don't know.
Past
That's all being discussed at the moment. One thing's for sure, next week will be an announcement, certainly of our first show in January, but probably 2 shows for the first 2 shows of next year.
So when will we hear an official announcement for Dillian White and Povetkin?
Could be next week.
Oh, could be next week.
Could be, yeah.
I think you should stay at Wembley.
It's nice, isn't it? Especially with the old Wingstop.
Oh yeah.
How nice was that?
Wingstop was a good call. Whoever made that, Ross?
Ross did the deal.
Yeah, Ross does a lot
Shout
of
out
deals.
Rossy G.
Yeah, I think you should stay there, mate.
Okay, thanks. You like the hotel? It's nice, isn't it, with the food and everything?
I just think it's nice. It's nice. Have you got anything else you want to add?
All good, mate. All good.
Anything else you want to
Hope everyone is lifted a little bit by the news today. I suppose it's good and bad, wasn't it? But for most people, at least there's some sign of normality-ish coming through. So hang in there.
What did you reach 1 million followers? Was it Instagram?
Insta, yeah.
Hey, 1 million followers, that's quite...
Nah, it's nothing.
No?
Shout out to all the followers, those who started with me and those who joined me lately.
Do you remember who followed you first?
No, was it you?
No, I'm just saying,
right,
when
no.
your first follower.
No.
No?
Do you know a little really fascinating Instagram story? I lost my password or something on Instagram and I got to about 40,000 and I binned it off for 3 years. And I thought, actually, I'll go back on now because I didn't really like it at the start. Now I much prefer it over Twitter, don't you?
I think each serve their different purposes.
Twitter's so angry.
I know. But
It's
to get
quite-
things going, Twitter is...
Yeah, it's just so angry. There are like a dozen people who every time I post just go like literally like it's like 10 seconds later.
What call you a slag?
Yeah, worse than that sometimes. To be honest with you, yeah. It's like, what do you do? What are you doing?
How was Mike Tyson the other day?
It wasn't ideal. Have you listened to it?
Not yet, but you told me about
Yeah,
it.
so we set up a Zoom for the podcast, BBC podcast that I do, No Passion, No Point. And it was like, oh, Mike's connecting now. And Mike was in a car, right, with his, I don't know, it was his mate or whatever. And he was like that on the Zoom.
Did he know who you were?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I've got to ask. I don't know.
He texted me and said, just to let you know that as tough as things have been in this camp, your book, Relentless, got me through the camp. We're laughing at it.
Laughing.
No, he didn't really.
Laughing.
And it was like, hey Mike, hey, how you doing? Right, here we go. Eddie Hearn, BBC No Passion, No Point. Mike, big fight this weekend. How you feeling? I'm good, man. Yeah, I'm fucking good. Obviously, Mike, you know the training, blah, blah. How's training gone? Training's gone good. Mike, growing up in Brownsville, obviously very difficult for you. What was that like? It was tough, man. It was tough. Mike, and I did freeze a little bit as well at the same time because he's like, I remember seeing him he came out with a great line because I went to a club called Pure at Caesar's Palace, right? Fucking unbelievable back in the day. And I saw Mike Tyson. I had this table here and he was on a table next to me and he was on his own with just women everywhere, right? And I thought, fuck, it's Mike Tyson. But he looked a bit nutty at the time. I think he'd probably had a few for whatever. And he was like, so I thought, don't want to like. And all night I was just waiting to go and talk to him. So I went over and at that stage of my life, which was probably like early 20s, I did what I used to do all the time, which was, I'm Barry Hearn's son. I just went up to him and I said, Mike, do you know Barry Hearn? Yeah, I know Barry. I'm his son. He's like, all right, nice one. Probably thought, prick. And then I just said, hey, any chance of a photo? And he's like, just grunted at me. And I had a photo. And yeah, I was just like, I couldn't believe it. And I've still got the photo. And yeah, and I said to him, I went, Mike, I remember seeing you in Pure nightclub about 20 years ago. I said, where were you at that stage in your life? It sort of didn't really seem too with it. He went, cocaine's a hell of a drug, man. That's what he said. And there's a couple of good stories about Customato. He obviously rates Fury, thinks Fury will beat AJ, so we had a little bit of back and forth about that. It was good. It wasn't the greatest podcast I ever did because I didn't feel like I really had him locked in.
It's not ideal in a car, I will say that.
It's really not ideal.
Did you bring up...
I've actually, that was podcast 8, which, podcast has gone really well.
Yeah.
And we've got 2 more to go, which is Joe Wicks, which I recorded yesterday.
The body coach.
Very nice guy.
Yeah.
Joe Wicks, great story though. Like, do you know Joe Wicks' background?
Not really.
So Joe Wicks is from a council estate, I think Surbiton or something like that. His mum had him very young, and his dad had an addiction, bad heroin addiction, and had a really sort of unsettled upbringing. Become a teaching assistant, went to university and become a PT. And he used to do boot camps over Richmond Park. And he would go to the train station and give out flyers for his boot camp at the weekend. And it was actually a boxing boot camp. And he said sometimes I would turn up and there would be like 2 people at my boot camp. And I'd think, you know, and I just thought, what about try this? You know, and then he started looking at the digital side, food prep and stuff like that. It's actually, for young aspiring PTs and anyone young aspiring in business who's got a dream and an idea that's probably thinking, I'm not sure this is ever going to take off, or banging their head against the wall, listen to Joe Wicks on my podcast. And Freddie Flintoff, who was fucking brilliant. Fucking brilliant.
Had some
So
names on there,
honest,
haven't
so raw. What's that, mate?
Had some names
I
on
had
there.
some massive names on there, mate.
Had some good names on there.
But you know, Freddie Flintoff, did you see his show about bulimia recently?
No.
Did you hear about it?
No.
Did you not know anything about it?
No.
Do you know that he's been suffering from bulimia all his life? Or for, you know, the large portion of his life?
That part I knew some of, but I haven't watched the programme.
I mean, isn't that amazing that someone like that, who you can look at and think, like, this guy's got it all, England cricket, a smile on his face, he loves a beer, he's out with the lads, can have some kind of illness so debilitating and mentally tough. And he said in my podcast that he would arrive at a match and he would go around the clubhouse and find the best spot for him to be sick in. He would have his lunch, he would go and be sick, throw it all up and then go out and play. I think it's unbelievable. I thought it was so brave of him to tell that story. It's amazing. It just shows you, doesn't it? You never realise what people are going through.
No.
You know, all the times, you know, the stick he had, the abuse he had, and no one would have ever thought that he would have been going through anything like that. So you never know, do you? Just because someone's happy and smiley and loud, and, you know, they could be going back home or back to the hotel crying their eyes out.
It's true.
Rest in
Very
peace,
true.
Heavy D.
Yeah, I was going to come on to
Very
that.
sad.
Yeah. Heavy D, yeah, obviously very familiar with a lot of people in boxing. Had
Yeah,
a
he
few
was just a crazy
charity
guy,
bouts
wasn't he?
himself,
I mean,
larger than life.
He's just one of those people. I think it's always good to leave an impression in a room. Can be good impression, you know, can be a bad impression, but mostly obviously people want to leave good impressions. But Heavy was one of those guys where he did light up a room. He wasn't always everyone's cup of tea because he was so loud and so in your face, and you could imagine some people thinking, who is this guy? But I bet they had an opinion on him. Do you know what I mean? And he did the fuck whatever he wanted, let's be honest. He didn't change for anyone, didn't he? He didn't go into a room full of different kind of people and be someone else. He was just the way he was. Larger than life. Very sad.
Very
What was he, 42, 43?
43, I think.
Yeah. As the saying said, someone said at a funeral I was at recently, he may not have been everyone's cup of tea, but he was my cup of tea. That's what someone said, and I thought it was a great line. Because you know, he was a character. Every time you see that geezer, what's the first thing you think of? Well, that's Heavy D. You know what I mean? He was you couldn't forget him, could you?
No.
So gone far too soon, but definitely made an impact on a lot of people, and he won't be forgotten.
Definitely did that. And also Maradona, you see,
Yeah,
passed away at the
amazing.
age of 60 as well.
Well, that was really one that just, I mean, I don't think you could see an Instagram page that didn't have a tribute or a post on Maradona, because especially of our age, he was, you know, I mean, obviously the hand of God in the World Cup is what you remember him for first, but also you remember him for the final, was it the semi-final, quarter-finals, when he went on that, you know, run in the tournament, scoring loads of goals. And he was like, I was listening to Ronnie O'Sullivan talk about him this morning, and he likened him to Roberto Duran. Do you know what I mean? One of those guys that obviously have catastrophic demons, but are so honest and raw and real that the public love them for that. Do you know what I mean? So someone like Maradona, whilst he would have made a million mistakes in his life, they were there for all to see. And I think people warm to the fact that you are vulnerable, but you're honest and real. So he had his problems, he had his addictions, he had his bad decisions, but it all unfolded in front of you. And I think he just, you know, for him it was like, this is me. But obviously suffered a lot in his life as well, with addiction and, you know, all sorts, but just an unbelievable player. And I think the great stories like that are when you think about Maradona and Roberto Duran. And I don't know, but having been to some of these places, you can imagine where they came from. You know, like Roberto Duran in Panama, or Maradona in Argentina, Buenos Aires, or wherever he was from in Argentina. Now, these are guys that have become global icons from absolutely nothing. Remarkable, really. I mean, was he the greatest player of all time? That's something that only comes over time, isn't it? Because you know when they're playing at the moment, in the moment, people say this could be the best ever, but it doesn't really happen till over time. Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's like Messi and Ronaldo. Will you say he was the greatest player of all time?
Right.
But really, you have to say, I mean, with Pele, two of the greatest players of all time.
Definitely. Do you think in like 20 years' time people will go, Eddie Hearn, one of the greatest promoters of all time?
I hope so.
I think you've got a fair shout.
But that's again
Not
something.
guaranteed,
But I think that you only look back on things when they've gone. You know, so when I've gone, I don't think I'll ever be in the game, and people will go, he's one of the greatest promoters of all time. I think when I'm dead or when I walk away, that's when they might say it, because you only say it when you realise what's gone, and that's the same with football. Same with boxing. It's like Floyd Mayweather. I don't class Floyd Mayweather. I mean, I class him as one of the greatest fighters of our generation, but do you class him as one of the greatest fighters of all time? I think in 20 years' time, yes, I think he will be classed that way. Do you know what I mean? But at the time, I don't think you get that kind of homage.
I haven't heard that in a while.
I'm not sure if it was the right word to use, but it sounded good to me.
I think you'll be definitely regarded as like top 30.
Top 30, thanks, mate. I don't know what.
Of all time, sports promoters.
Yeah, I think.
Take that, wouldn't you?
I think it's nice to. I mean, what do you want to be remembered for?
Nothing really.
Nothing.
No. Hopefully one day a good dad.
Not long for you now.
No, 3 months.
But I do sometimes think that. I think, you know, when it's all said and done, what do you want to be remembered as? You want to be remembered as a good man, I think. Good man, good husband, good father. I want to be remembered as someone that just switched up the game. That is being brutally honest. That is a dream or a target, whatever you want to call it. Man. I do want people to think that of me. Fuck me, smashed it. That's, you know, like at the funeral. You want to hear, do you know what? He was a good man, he was. But you also want to hear, fuck me, he was a good operator. Oh, tore up the game, mate.
And then good banter. That's important to you, isn't it?
But aren't we all failed athletes, really? I'm a failed athlete. I'd much rather be a sportsman. Oh, shit. So this is my opportunity to leave a mark on the world. This way. And I think you've always got to try and leave a mark on the world, don't you?
Of course.
Unless you're just happy to get lost in the system. I want to be outstanding. I want to be the best I can be. I want people to look back and say, all jokes aside, he was the greatest promoter of all time. Or, can't believe that fucker kept the price at $24.95. They might say that when I'm dead. No, they won't. They'll go, do you know what?
If it happened now, then they probably...
They won't. They'll go, do you know what? He always gave us value for money. It's a good egg, that, Anne.
Oh, you're serious? Yeah.
They will.
Oh, right, sorry.
They
Yeah,
will.
sorry.
No, you don't have to, you know. It's not that you want to get... You don't have to be praised. They don't have to go, oh, he was a great man and he changed the game. They can say he was a complete prick, but fuck me, he was good. That'll do. I'm not a prick anyway.
No one said you was.
No, I'm not. But that actually frustrates me, because I think if you didn't know me, you would think I was a prick. But I promise, if you know me, you might think I'm half a prick, but that's about it, honestly.
I think if someone meets you, they won't think you're a prick. I think they see...
Oh no, how many times have we had this discussion? Mate, if I saw me, on TV or in these interviews, I would think, I can't stand that geezer. No, I'm not sure I think that, but I think, oh. No context Hearn's been big for me.
What?
No context Hearn's been big for me. Because it's people that don't know boxing, who don't necessarily watch interviews, you go, oh, he's hilarious. Because they don't really watch enough of me. But
I have noticed as well, over the last few months, that you don't really get booed at shows anymore.
Banter, no crowds, very good. Prick. It's like, that's why people say, I think Hearn likes it with no crowds. I don't. I prefer crowds.
Alright.
Yeah, mate. Listen, it is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, for you, obviously Rosado and Danny Jacobs this week, and then roll on Billy Joe
against Murray. I'll tell you something now.
Might get a bit of needle in that, you know.
I don't think that's going to be an easy fight for Billy Joe. Because, let's be honest, Martin Murray has clearly gone, this is my absolute last roll of the dice. Agreed?
Yeah,
no, he has. He has.
Guess so.
He has. I'm telling you now, if he loses, he will retire. That's what I believe. So when you've got that mentality, you put absolutely everything, and they've locked themselves away. I notice these things. He ain't been posting on social media, right? We've been trying to get into film with him. It's taken us ages.
Are you talking about Martin Murray?
Yes.
Yeah.
We managed to get in and just do a bit. He's gone total lockdown for this camp. That means training like a man possessed, going to give it everything. And by the way, I'll say this. If I'm Martin Murray's promoter, and I'm selling you my man's chances of winning the fight, I'm saying this. Show me a good performance from Billy Joe Saunders at 168. He won the championship in an okay performance. He was poor in his first defence against LA. So the pressure's on Billy Joe. I've said to Billy Joe, you've got to look sensational here. Because you want to call out Canelo or the winner of Canelo against Canelo-Smith or Triple G. You've got to put on a clinic, mate. And you've got to look really good. So he wants to do that, and I believe he's going to try and do that. But I just think it's going to be a really good fight. Behind closed doors, mate, anything can happen. And Martin Murray's got a chance of becoming world champion next week. He ain't going to roll over. Really good fight with James Tennyson and Josh O'Reilly. WBA eliminator for the world title, lightweight. Josh O'Reilly, Canadian, I think he's like 17-0. Big fight for Tennyson. For me, Tennyson is one of the most exciting fighters in the world, pound for pound. Honestly. Punches so fucking hard.
Okay.
Cheers. How long did we do that? How long was that? Was it over an hour?
Over an hour, mate.
No, I'm sorry, guys.
It's alright.
I just get lost in, I get lost with you.
Eddie Hearn, thank you very much for talking to Eiffel TV. We will see you next week in the bubble.
Will do. Cheers, people.
Is your debt causing you sleepless nights? Knock your debt out with Debt KO. And your debt won't be the only thing keeping you up at night. Debt KO, free impartial advice on all your debt.